Cross-examination of a new witness, a former neighbour of the Khumalos, will begin today in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial in the High Court in Pretoria. Khaya Ngcatshe took the stand yesterday following days of testimony and cross-examination of the state's first witness, Zandile Khumalo. Khumalo maintained that intruders entered the home in what the state believes was a botched robbery. Kicking off her testimony, Ngcatshe told the court about the unusual loud banging of a door on the night that the soccer star was shot. He also told the court that he found Meyiwa lying in the passage close to the kitchen and helped carry him to the car, which was driven by Kelly Khumalo when he was transported to hospital. 5 men are on trial for the footballer's 2014 murder in Vosloorus. Now, as you will know by now, Mnisi is tracking the finer details of the story, and he's live to us here in the AM Report studios. Good morning. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
The drama that unfolded yesterday primarily centered around the differences in what Zandile Khumalo told the court and then what the neighbour said afterwards.
It's interesting, Michelle, because just before she exited the stand, what she was telling the court was how difficult and almost impossible it is for her neighbours to see what's happening inside the house. She described the windows and what the windows looked like, saying if you are next door, you can never see what is happening in their kitchen at least. And the state then brought a witness who lives just next door, someone who deposed the statement, telling the court what exactly he heard. He basically came and, in fact, told the court that I heard unusual noise, loud noise. I was in my bedroom. I just returned from a concert in Ekurhuleni, and what I heard were loud sounds, something like a loud banging door, which was very unusual. He also describes the sound as, it was as if someone was being reprimanded. At some point, he also heard the sound of a breaking teacup. So he says he peeped through the window, and what he saw there was a man wearing a white T-shirt who was faced inside the house, had his back against the window. So he saw that. They came out with his father, and what he says is that immediately when they stepped out of the house, there was this young man who had just jumped into their house from the Khumalo home. Interesting what that man says when he pulls out the steel rod that he had. He says, well, I didn't do anything wrong. We are being attacked. And, the father reprimanded him and told him not to go into the Khumalo home, after that particular a discussion with the man who had just jumped into the house. Interesting that later on they're sent on a chase because apparently there were people who had run down the road. So he, together with other community members, went and looked for these people who had gone. They got to a nearby park and didn't see anybody. Upon their return, they went straight into the Khumalo home, and there was Senzo lying just next to the kitchen, facing upwards. He says, he had, of course, a wound on his chest. But it's interesting, if you listen to Zandile Khumalo's statement, she said he was found in between the couch and a TV stand in the lounge.
Are we getting a sense of, we got a sense of what the state had to say about Zandile Khumalo's testimony, right? And there were some scathing words by the prosecutor about whether her version of events is true or not. The same, I think, can be said, Linda, for Judge Rata Mokgwatleng.
Yes. In fact, it was interesting to observe, what he said, given that you'll remember judges also can ask clarity-seeking questions after cross-examination and re-examination, just to get a sense of some of the things that they don't really understand and some of the things that may have not been clarified. And it's interesting that he asked for clarity in terms of the defense's version and what was put to Zandile to say, if you believe that these people committed this crime or murdered Senzo Meyiwa, these are the same people that then rushed him to hospital, because if you're going to kill a person, you're going to make sure they're dead. But here we have a scenario where these people carried this person all the way to the hospital, and of course it gave Zandile an opportunity to respond and even give more information to the court. But also later he then questions that it's interesting that with everything that has been described, there is no neighbor. Nobody saw. Are you saying nobody saw what happened? Nobody saw anybody running out from the community, you know? Nobody. You know, he even says that a lot of Zindaba gossipers essentially in the township. Somebody must have seen something. And it's interesting that immediately after that, the state brought in a witness from the community, someone who lives next door, who says, we went on a chase, we were told there were people that ran down, but when we got there, there was absolutely nobody. So cross-examination will start today, and we'll hear more of his version.
Yeah, and hopefully get a lot more clarity. Linda Mnisi with all of the details as they are unfolding in the High Court there in Pretoria. We'll leave you to make the trip to Pretoria as the case kicks off again today. Linda, thanks very much indeed for coming in.